Captain James Miller stood at the main window of the U.S. Defiance Bridge, watching the stars shine against the dark space near Jupiter. His ship, the most advanced battleship Earth had ever built, moved quietly through space on its regular patrol route. The orange and brown stripes of Jupiter filled half the view, making him feel small despite commanding such a powerful vessel. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange." First Officer Linda Hayes looked up from her screen, her face showing worry. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel as she tried to make sense of the readings. "It's like nothing we've seen before." Miller walked to her station, his boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. "Show me," he ordered, leaning over to look at the display. The energy readings were off the charts, pulsing in patterns that didn't match any known space phenomenon. "Sir," called out Officer Tom Parker from the radar station, "something's appearing about 50,000 miles ahead." His voice shook slightly as he spoke. The space in front of them began to twist and bend, like someone was pulling apart the fabric of reality itself. A bright flash of blue light filled the bridge, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. When they could see again, a massive ship hung in space before them. It was at least 3 times the size of the Defiant, shaped like a giant arrowhead, with a surface that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. "My God," whispered Miller. He had trained for first contact scenarios, but nothing could have prepared him for this moment. "Open all channels, standard greeting protocol." Before Communications Officer Jessica Reed could send out their message, the alien ship turned slightly. Strange lights began glowing along its hull. "Energy spike," shouted Hayes. "There." A beam of bright green energy shot out from the alien vessel, but it wasn't aimed at the Defiant. Instead, it struck the Thompson Research Station, a civilian facility studying Jupiter's atmosphere. The station, home to 200 of Earth's brightest scientists, had been quietly floating nearby. The beam cut through the station like it was made of paper. For a terrible moment, everything was silent. Then the station exploded, sending pieces of metal and debris floating in all directions. Emergency beacons began flashing in the darkness, marking the locations where escape pods should have launched. But it had happened too fast. No one had time to escape. "No." Miller's hands gripped the railing so hard his knuckles turned white. "Get me Earth Command, now." Reed's fingers flew over her console. "Channel open." "Sir." "Earth Command, this is Captain Miller of the U.S. Defiant. We have a code black situation. I repeat, code black. An unknown alien vessel has just destroyed Thompson Station. 200 civilians." He had to force himself to stay professional. 200 civilians are presumed dead. Requesting immediate instructions. The response came back broken and filled with static. "Day. Hold. Position. Wait for orders. The alien ship is interfering with our communications, sir," Reed reported. "I can barely maintain the connection." Miller watched as the alien ship slowly turned toward them. Its weapon ports were still glowing with that sickly green energy. They had just watched it destroy a station with a single shot. The Defiant, despite being Earth's most advanced warship, might not fare any better. But they couldn't just wait for orders. Every second they delayed meant the alien ship could target another civilian facility. There were 3 more research stations in the Jupiter sector, each one filled with innocent people who had no way to defend themselves. Hayes looked up at Miller, her face pale but determined. "Your orders, sir." Miller straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. In that moment, he wasn't just making a decision for his crew. He was making humanity's first response to an alien threat. Their actions in the next few minutes would show these aliens exactly what happened when they attacked humans without warning. "Battle stations," he commanded, his voice firm and clear. "All hands prepare for combat. Weapons, begin loading all railguns. Engineering, divert power to shields and weapon systems." He paused for a moment, then added, "Let's show these aliens that humanity isn't as helpless as they think." Red alert klaxons began blaring throughout the ship. Crew members ran to their stations, their training kicking in despite the unprecedented situation. As the Defiant's weapons came online and its engines powered up for combat maneuvers, Miller sent out one final message to Earth Command. "This is Captain Miller. We are engaging the hostile alien vessel. Humanity strikes first." Admiral Robert Thompson stared at the emergency broadcast screen in Earth Command's main control room. The message from the U.S. Defiant played again, broken and full of static, but clear enough to understand. An alien ship had destroyed Thompson's station. His brother had been the lead scientist on that station. Now he was gone, along with 199 others. "Sir, we're getting more data from the Defiant's scans," Intelligence Officer Emily Brooks said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. She put the information on the main screen. "The alien ship's energy readings are off the charts. Nothing in our database comes close to this level of technology." Thompson walked closer to the screen, his face lit by the glow of the alien ship's readings. "What else can you tell me, Brooks? Based on the ship's design and energy signature, I can cross-reference it with deep space telescope data." Emily pulled up more images. "We've seen ships like this before, sir. They've appeared at the edges of our solar system, always staying just far enough away to avoid detection. But now they're showing their true colors." Thompson finished. He watched as more data poured in from the Defiant. The alien ship was massive, its weapons already proving deadly against human technology. In the command center, dozens of officers worked at their stations, sending orders to other ships in the solar system. The room buzzed with urgent voices and the beeping of emergency alerts. "Sir," called out Officer Mike Russell from the communication station, "we've decoded some of their transmissions. They're calling themselves the Dominion. They're talking about humanity as a primitive species. They're discussing whether to eliminate us or enslave us." Thompson's fists clenched. "Get me Captain Miller on the line. Now." But before they could establish a clear connection, new alerts flashed across the main screen. The Defiant was moving into attack position. "What is Miller doing?" someone shouted. "He was ordered to hold position." Thompson watched the tactical display, showing the Defiant's movement toward the alien vessel. A small smile crossed his face. "He's doing exactly what I'd do. He's showing them we're not as primitive as they think." Emily Brooks pulled up more analysis on her screen. "Admiral, I found something interesting. The Dominion ships rely heavily on energy weapons and shields. But look at this." She pointed to a section of data. "They don't seem to have much physical armor. They probably think it's beneath them. And we still use good old-fashioned bullets and railguns," Thompson said, understanding dawning on his face. "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways." The Admiral turned to address the entire command center. "Listen up. I want every ship in the solar system on high alert. Send emergency broadcasts to all colonies and stations. Begin evacuation protocols for civilian facilities near Jupiter. And someone get me a secure line to the President." As the command center burst into even more activity, Thompson watched the tactical display showing the Defiant preparing for battle. The alien ship was bigger, more advanced, and probably capable of destroying the human vessel with a single shot. But the Defiant had something the aliens didn't expect: a crew of humans who would fight to their last breath to protect Earth. "Admiral," Emily called out softly, "I found more records of Dominion activities in other star systems." She looked up, her face grim. "They've done this before. They target developing civilizations, testing their defenses by attacking civilian targets. If the civilization fights back effectively, they move on. If not," Thompson nodded slowly, "then humanity needs to show them exactly what we're capable of." He turned to Communications Officer Russell. "Send this message to all military vessels in the solar system. This is Admiral Thompson. As of this moment, we are at war. The aliens who call themselves the Dominion have attacked without provocation and murdered innocent civilians. They believe we are primitive and weak. It's time to prove them wrong. All ships prepare for combat operations. Earth Command authorizes full military response. As the message went out, Thompson looked one last time at the image of the Thompson Station's destruction. "The Dominion thinks they can test us," he said quietly. "They think they can judge whether we deserve to survive." He straightened his uniform and turned to his officers. "Then let's give them a test they'll never forget." Across the solar system, humanity's military forces began to mobilize. The Defiant might be fighting alone for now, but soon it would have company. The Dominion was about to learn a hard lesson. Humans don't take kindly to bullies, no matter what planet they're from. Weapons Officer Mark Wilson's hands moved quickly over his control panel on the U.S. Defiance bridge. The alien ship loomed in front of them, its strange surface reflecting Jupiter's orange glow. While everyone else saw a terrifying enemy vessel, Wilson saw something different. He saw weak points. "Captain Miller," Wilson called out, "I've been studying their shield patterns. They're strong against energy weapons, but I don't think they're ready for what we've got." Miller walked over to Wilson's station. "Explain." "Look here," Wilson pointed to his screen. "Their shields are designed to stop energy beams and plasma. But we don't use those." He smiled slightly. "We use good old-fashioned metal slugs in our railguns. Simple physics. Mass times acceleration." Engineering Chief Thomas Anderson joined the conversation from his station. "He's right, Captain. I can modify our railguns to fire at maximum speed. They won't expect it. No one uses primitive weapons like these anymore, according to their communications." The Defiant shook as the alien ship fired a warning shot, the green beam passing close to their port side. The message was clear: surrender or die. "All hands, battle stations." Miller's voice rang through the ship's speakers. "This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." Throughout the massive battleship, crew members ran to their positions. In the engine room, Anderson's team pushed the power systems to their limits. In the weapon bays, teams loaded the railguns with tungsten shells, each one weighing as much as a small car. "Shields at maximum power," First Officer Hayes reported. "All weapons systems ready." Miller stood in the center of the bridge, watching the alien ship through the main window. "Mr. Wilson, target their main weapon ports. Mr. Anderson, give the railguns everything you've got. Let's show these aliens what primitive weapons can do." "Target locked," Wilson announced. His fingers hovered over the fire control. "Ready on your order, sir." Miller took a deep breath. "Fire." The Defiant's railguns roared to life. Each gun used electromagnetic force to throw massive metal slugs at speeds that would make a bullet look slow. The tungsten shells crossed the space between the ships in seconds. The aliens, expecting energy weapons, had their shields tuned to stop laser beams and plasma. Instead, they were hit by dozens of solid metal projectiles moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The impact was devastating. "Direct hits," Wilson shouted. "Their forward shields are fluctuating." On the main screen, they could see the damage. The alien ship's beautiful surface was now dented and scarred where the railgun shells had struck. More importantly, their main weapon ports were damaged. But the Dominion ship wasn't defeated yet. It turned quickly, bringing new weapons to bear. Green energy beams lashed out, striking the Defiant's shields. "Shields holding at 60%. Hayes reported as the ship shook. "They're trying to target our engines." "Evasive maneuvers," Miller ordered. "Wilson, prepare another volley. Anderson, I need more power to the railguns." The Defiant moved like a dancer, dodging most of the alien fire. Years of training in Jupiter's strong gravity field had made the crew experts at space combat. The alien ship, used to fighting slower, less maneuverable opponents, struggled to land solid hits. "Second volley ready," Wilson announced, targeting their shield generators this time. "Fire at will," Miller commanded. Another barrage of tungsten shells streaked across space. This time, the aliens tried to dodge, but the Defiant's targeting computers had predicted their movement. The shell struck home, causing more damage to the alien vessel. "Sir," Communications Officer Reed called out. "They're sending a message. They're calling us barbarians. They say our weapons are uncivilized." Miller laughed. "Send them this reply. Civilization is nice. Survival is better." The battle continued to rage near Jupiter. The alien ship was larger and more advanced, but the Defiant had surprised them. Nobody had told the Dominion that humanity's primitive weapons could be so effective. Every time they tried to power up their main weapons, another volley of railgun fire forced them to focus on defense. "Status report," Miller called out as the ship shook from another near miss. "Shields at 45%. All weapons operational," Hayes reported. "We're hurting them, sir, but they're still in the fight." Miller nodded grimly. "Good, because we're just getting started. Mr. Wilson, prepare all missile tubes. Let's show them another human surprise." The battle for humanity's first contact had become humanity's first interstellar war, and the U.S. Defiant was making sure it would be a battle the Dominion would never forget. Communications Officer Jessica Reed sat at her station on the Defiant's bridge, her eyes fixed on the stream of alien transmissions flowing across her screen. The ship shook from another hit, but she barely noticed. Her mind was too focused on breaking the alien code. "Captain," she called out suddenly. "I've done it. I can understand their transmissions now." Captain Miller steadied himself against his chair as another blast rocked the ship. "What are they saying?" Reed's fingers flew over her keyboard as she translated. They're shocked, sir. They're calling us savage primitives. But," she smiled, "they're also calling for help. They didn't expect us to be so hard to beat." "Good," Miller said. "Let them know what it means to underestimate humanity." Status report. Chief Medical Officer David Clark spoke up from the medical bay through the ship's comm system. "Sick bay here. We got 12 injured from that last hit. Nothing too serious yet, but we're running out of beds." Before Miller could respond, the alien ship launched a new attack. This time, strange purple waves spread out from their ship, washing over the Defiant. "What was that?" Miller demanded. "Some kind of scanning beam," First Officer Hayes answered. "They're trying to learn about our technology." She paused, then laughed. "They seem confused by our weapons. Their scans show no energy weapons at all. They don't understand how we're hurting them so badly with just metal and explosives." The battle had been raging for over an hour now. The space around Jupiter was filled with floating debris from both ships. The Defiant's hull was scorched from energy weapons, while the alien ship's beautiful surface was now dented and torn from railgun hits. "Sir," Reed called out again, "they're talking about something called kinetic impact shields. They're trying to modify their defenses to stop our railgun shots." Wilson spoke up from his weapons station. "Then we need to hit them harder before they figure it out. Captain, I have an idea. It's crazy, but it might work." "At this point, I like crazy," Miller replied. "What's your plan?" "Their shields are strongest at the edges where the energy field is generated," Wilson explained. "But if we concentrate all our railguns on a single point, right in the center of a shield section." He brought up a diagram on the main screen. Miller studied the plan. "How many shots would we need?" "All of them," Wilson said simply. "Every railgun we have, firing at exactly the same spot, at exactly the same time. We've never tried it before. It might overload our own weapons." Another hit rocked the ship. "Shields at 30%, Hayes reported. "We need to do something fast." Miller looked around the bridge at his crew. They were tired, some were injured, but none showed any sign of giving up. "Do it," he ordered. "Target their main engine housing. If we can't destroy them, we can at least stop them from running away." The crew moved with perfect coordination, the result of countless hours of training. Engineering diverted every spare bit of power to the weapons. The targeting computers were programmed with the exact coordinates. "Ready on your mark," Wilson announced. The alien ship was turning. bringing its repaired weapons to bear. Their purple scanning beams were still trying to understand the Defiant's primitive technology. "They're powering up something big," Hayes warned. "Energy readings are off the charts." "Now," Miller commanded. Every railgun on the Defiant fired at exactly the same moment. The recoil made the whole ship shudder. Dozens of tungsten shells, moving at incredible speed, struck the exact same point on the alien ship's shields. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like a stone breaking a window, the concentrated force smashed through the alien shields. The shells tore into the engine housing, ripping through the advanced alien metal like it was paper. The Dominion ship's engines flared bright blue, then went dark. The massive vessel began to drift, its main power source critically damaged. "Direct hit," Wilson shouted. "Their main engines are offline." Reed's station lit up with new signals. "They're broadcasting some kind of distress call, sir." And she paused, listening carefully. "They're asking to discuss terms." Miller stood in the center of his bridge, looking at the damaged but not defeated alien ship. "Tell them we accept their request for talks. But remind them, they fired first. Remember that when they speak to us." The crew of the Defiant had just proven that humanity's primitive technology, combined with human determination and creativity, was more than a match for alien arrogance. The real question now was, what would the rest of the Dominion do when they found out? Lieutenant Frank Peterson looked at his navigation screens aboard the U.S. Defiant, a bold idea forming in his mind. Jupiter's massive gravity could be more than just a backdrop for this battle. It could be a weapon. "Captain Miller," Peterson called out, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "I have a plan, but it's risky." "At this point, Lieutenant, I'm all ears," Miller replied, watching the damaged alien ship that was still dangerous despite its injured state. "We can use Jupiter's gravity for a slingshot attack. Build up speed, then hit them when we're moving fastest. Our railgun shots would have even more power." Peterson's fingers moved across his screen, showing the planned route. Miller studied the course. It would take the Defiant dangerously close to Jupiter's atmosphere, but the payoff could be worth it. "How close do we need to get?" "Closer than any battleship has ever gone, sir," Peterson admitted. "But I've trained for this. I grew up running simulator missions in Jupiter's gravity." Before Miller could decide, the alien ship fired again. This time, their weapons were different, smaller, faster beams that were harder to dodge. One struck the Defiant's port side. "Direct hit," Hayes shouted. "Deck 3 is reporting hull damage." Miller made his decision. "Do it, Peterson. Take us in." He hit the ship-wide comm. "All hands, brace for extreme gravity maneuvers. This is going to get rough." The Defiant turned toward Jupiter, its engines burning hot. The giant planet filled their view, its swirling storms and bands growing larger by the second. The ship's hull groaned under the increasing gravitational forces. "The aliens are following us," Reed reported from communications. "They're sending messages. They think we're running away. They're laughing at us." "Let them laugh," Miller said with a grim smile. "Weapons, status." Wilson worked at his weapons console, railguns loaded and ready. "I've adjusted for the gravity effects. When we come around Jupiter, we'll hit them harder than anything they've ever seen." The Defiant plunged deeper into Jupiter's gravity well. Warning alarms blared as the ship's systems were pushed to their limits. In engineering, Anderson and his team fought to keep the engines running at full power. "Hull stress at maximum," Hayes called out. "We can't take much more of this." Peterson's hands moved steadily over his controls, guiding the massive ship through the gravitational forces. Sweat ran down his face, but his voice remained calm. "Beginning slingshot maneuver in 3, 2, 1. The Defiant swung around Jupiter's curve, using the planet's enormous gravity to build up speed. The ship shook violently, but Peterson's course was perfect. They were moving faster than any human ship had ever traveled under normal power. "The aliens are still behind us," Reed announced. They're asking why we would fly so close to a gas giant. They don't understand. They're about to, Miller said. All hands, prepare for attack run. Weapons, stand by. As the Defiant completed its turn, Jupiter's gravity hurled them like a sling stone. The alien ship came into view, still following their path, but much higher above Jupiter's atmosphere. Fire everything, Miller commanded. The Defiant's railguns roared. The shells, already moving at incredible speeds, were now boosted by both the ship's velocity and Jupiter's gravity. They struck the alien vessel before it could react. The effect was devastating. The alien ship's shields, already weakened from previous attacks, couldn't handle the enhanced kinetic impact. Huge sections of their hull broke apart under the assault. Multiple direct hits, Wilson shouted in triumph. Their shields are completely down. Through the main viewport, they watched as the alien ship tried to turn away. But its damaged engines couldn't pull it out of Jupiter's gravity. The once proud vessel began to drift toward the gas giant's clouds. They're surrendering, Reed announced, her voice filled with disbelief. The Dominion commander, he's offering unconditional surrender. He says he's never seen such bold tactics. Miller stood at the center of his bridge, watching as his crew's gamble paid off. Tell them we accept their surrender. Have them prepare for boarding. And remind them, this is what happens when you underestimate humanity. The Defiant, still vibrating from its intense maneuver, moved to secure its prize. They had not only survived humanity's first space battle, they had won it using the very things the aliens thought made them primitive. Simple physics, bold tactics, and the courage to do the impossible. As the crew began rescue and capture operations, they knew this was just the beginning. The Dominion would be back. But now they knew that humanity wasn't just another primitive species to be conquered. They were a force to be reckoned with. The battle was won, but the U.S. Defiant's halls were far from quiet. Officer Mary Thompson ran through the smoke-filled corridor on Deck 3, where the alien ship's last desperate shot had hit them hardest. Warning lights flashed red, and the emergency system kept repeating. Hull breach imminent. Seal all compartments. Engineering to bridge. Anderson's voice crackled over the comm. The main power core is going critical. We took too much damage during that last hit. Captain Miller's voice came back clear and firm. Can you shut it down? Negative, sir. The controls are fried. Someone needs to manually shut down the core, but the radiation in there. Anderson didn't finish his sentence. Everyone knew what radiation exposure meant. Mary Thompson heard this exchange as she helped wounded crew members to safety. She looked at the emergency panel showing the ship's status. The power core was in Section 7, just 2 corridors away from her position. If it exploded, it would destroy not only the Defiant but also the surrendered alien ship they had fought so hard to capture. She made her decision quickly. Bridge, this is Officer Thompson. I'm near the core. I'm going in. Thompson, no. Miller ordered. The radiation levels are too high. Someone has to do it, sir, she replied calmly. And I'm already here. She turned to the injured crew member she was helping. Can you make it to sickbay on your own? The crewman nodded, and Mary turned toward Section 7. As she ran, she thought about her uncle Robert Thompson at Earth Command. He had lost her cousin on the research station. Now she would make sure that loss wasn't for nothing. She reached the power core access door. The radiation warning signs were flashing, but she ignored them. Using her emergency codes, she forced the door open. The heat hit her like a wall. I'm at the core, she reported, her voice steady. Starting shutdown sequence. The core room was filled with a blue glow that seemed to make the air itself shimmer. Mary could feel the radiation burning her skin, but she kept moving. The manual shutdown controls were at the far end of the room. 30 seconds to critical. Anderson mourned over the comm. Mary reached the control panel. Her hands were shaking, but she remembered her training. Starting shutdown. Now. She pulled the emergency levers in sequence, each one requiring all her strength. The core's angry blue glow began to fade. "It's working," Anderson shouted, core temperature dropping. Mary smiled, but she could feel herself getting weaker. The radiation was doing its work. "Core, shutdown, complete," she managed to say. Then she collapsed. The medical team found her 5 minutes later. They rushed her to sickbay, but everyone knew it was too late. The radiation exposure had been too high. In sickbay, Chief Medical Officer Clark worked desperately to save her, but the damage was done. Captain Miller came down from the bridge to see her. "Officer Thompson," he said softly, standing by her bed, "you saved the ship. You saved everyone." Mary looked up at her captain, her voice weak but clear. "Tell my uncle. Tell him I made them pay. For the research station. For everyone." "I will," Miller promised. "You're a hero, Mary. The first hero of humanity's first space war." Mary Thompson died an hour later. The ship's log would record that she gave her life to save not only the Defiant and its crew, but also to preserve humanity's first captured alien vessel, a victory that would prove crucial in the coming war. On the bridge, Miller looked out at the damaged alien ship they had captured. The cost had been high, too high. But Mary Thompson's sacrifice meant they now had access to alien technology, data about the Dominion, and proof that humanity could stand against the galaxy's greatest powers. "Message from Earth Command, sir," Reed announced quietly. "They're asking for a status report." Miller straightened his uniform. Tell them the Defiant has captured its prey. Tell them we've won our first battle." He paused, then added, "And tell them about Officer Mary Thompson. Tell them what it cost us." The crew on the bridge worked in silence, each thinking about their lost companion. They had achieved something unprecedented, humanity's first victory against an alien power. But victories, they had learned, came with a price. As the Defiant began recovery operations, its crew knew that Mary Thompson's sacrifice would not be forgotten. Her courage would inspire others in the battles to come. The Dominion had learned that humans would fight and die to protect their own. It was a lesson they would remember. 2 days after the battle, Captain Miller stood in the U.S. Defiant's main cargo bay, watching as teams of engineers studied the captured alien vessel. The Dominion ship, once proud and mysterious, now sat damaged but still impressive, its hull bearing the scars of humanity's first space victory. "Sir," First Officer Hayes approached with a tablet in hand. "The final battle report is ready to send to Earth Command." Miller nodded, taking one last look at the alien ship. "Send it. They need to know everything, the good and the bad." The report was comprehensive. It detailed how a human battleship had defeated a superior alien vessel using primitive weapons and bold tactics. It explained how Officer Mary Thompson had given her life to save the ship. Most importantly, it contained all the data they had gathered about Dominion technology and capabilities. "Captain to the bridge." Reed's voice came over the comm system. "The alien commander is asking to speak with you." In the brig, the alien commander stood tall despite his defeat. His skin was pale blue, and his eyes had an extra set of pupils, but otherwise he looked surprisingly human-like. 2 armed guards stood watch as Miller entered. "Captain Miller," the alien spoke through a translator. "My superiors will come for this ship. The Dominion does not accept defeat easily." Miller met the alien's 4-pupiled gaze. "Then they'll learn what your ship learned. Humanity doesn't accept invasion easily either." "You don't understand." The alien commander leaned forward. "The Dominion controls thousands of worlds. Your victory here was impressive, but it will only bring more attention to your world." "Good," Miller replied firmly. "Let them come. Let them all know what happened here. One human ship against your best technology. We won't hide, and we won't surrender." Back on the bridge, Wilson was reviewing the weapon systems data. "Sir, we've learned something interesting from the alien ship's logs. Their entire empire depends on energy weapons and shields. Nobody uses physical weapons anymore. They think it's beneath them. Then they've forgotten the basics of warfare, Miller said. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones. Hayes brought up a new report on the main screen. Earth Command has begun a massive military buildup. They're planning to put railguns on every ship in the fleet. The aliens' own arrogance will be their weakness. Message from Admiral Thompson. Sir, Reed announced. He says Mary's sacrifice won't be forgotten. They're naming the new defense program after her, Project Thompson, humanity's preparation for full-scale space warfare. Miller looked out at Jupiter, its massive form a reminder of how they had used nature itself as a weapon. Send this message to Earth Command. The Dominion thought they were testing us, judging if we deserved to survive. Instead, they taught us something valuable. We're stronger than they thought. Throughout the solar system, humanity was already changing. Factories that once built cars now produced railgun shells. Research stations studied the captured alien technology. Military academies added space combat tactics to their training. Sir, Hayes said quietly, do you think we're ready for what's coming? Miller thought about Mary Thompson, about the destroyed research station, about how one ship's crew had refused to back down. We've never been more ready. The Dominion thinks they're superior because their technology is more advanced. But they've forgotten something important. Technology isn't everything. He turned to address his crew. Humanity has something they don't understand. We have determination. We have creativity. Most importantly, we have the will to fight for our freedom, no matter the odds. The Defiant sensors picked up movement at the edge of the solar system. More ships were coming, probably the Dominion response fleet. But this time, humanity would be ready. Send one last message to the alien commander, Miller ordered. Tell him to tell his superiors this. Earth is not a target for conquest. Earth is not a test subject for their games. Earth is humanity's home, and we will defend it with everything we have. As the message was sent, Miller knew this was just the beginning. The Dominion would return, probably with more ships and better weapons, but they would find a humanity united and prepared. The U.S. Defiant had shown the galaxy that humans weren't primitives to be conquered. They were warriors to be feared. The first battle was over. The war was just beginning, and humanity was ready to show the universe exactly what primitive humans could do.